Hello everyone! Hello and welcome to the Calgary Zoo. My name is Cindy. I'm a member of the communications team, and if you can guess where I am from my surroundings, we are here in one of my absolute favorite places at the zoo. We are in the Savannah building, and we are going to be hanging out today with our Tower of Giraffes. So I'm here with one of our keepers, Jen, and I'm going to turn this over to her, and we are going to get started.
Hi guys, all right, good afternoon and welcome to the Calgary Zoo virtually. As Cindy said, my name is Jennifer and I'm lucky enough to be one of the giraffe keepers here at our zoo. Now before I introduce you to our giraffe family, I just have to do a quick shout out and a huge congratulations to the staff and our friends at Toronto Zoo. They just had a baby giraffe born just a few days ago, so big congratulations to you guys. It was very long awaited, so I hope everyone is healthy and happy there.
Awesome. Congrats to the Toronto Zoo and staff there. Amazing.
All right, so let's try and see where we can get a good look at our giraffes here.
Let's do this.
So we are lucky enough at the Calgary Zoo to have a wonderful family of 4. I think we're just waiting for our male to come out now. So starting on the left there is our oldest giraffe, Carrie. Carrie is actually a reticulated giraffe, and she is turning 27 this month at the end of May. So we'll be having a birthday party for her at the end of May. As I said, she is a reticulated giraffe. She is our only reticulated. The hippos are joining in on this podcast right now.
They are. They're saying hello.
They are. So if you look at Carrie's spots, she has pretty solid lines around her spots, and her pattern doesn't really continue down her legs. Next to her is her daughter, Moshi. Moshi is the daughter of Carrie and our male Nabo. She's 4.5 years old, so her birthday will be coming up in October. Big birthday for her as well. And you can see when Nabo comes out, she's sort of a combination between her mom and dad. Little kid, but she's quite a tall kid now. She was over 6 feet when she was first born, and she hasn't stopped since.
Awesome.
And we're just going to pan over, I think, to our last female giraffe on the right-hand side. So there is our female Imara. Imara is actually the newest addition to our group. She came to us from San Diego a few years ago. Hi, Imara. And Imara will be having a birthday next week, actually, which is fantastic. So we'll have another party for her next week as well. Imara is a Maasai giraffe, so a different subspecies than Carrie. You can see her pattern is quite different from Carrie's. The Maasai pattern is quite a bit more jagged, almost like jagged leaves on their body. And it extends, of course, all the way down their legs. And I think we're just waiting for our male giraffe or our bull.
He's going to come out
Nabo is going to come out here.
Side here. Let's watch. So I do apologize. I know a few people are saying it's a little hard to see the markings because of the beautiful day out there, and we have the sunlight in the background. So I apologize for that, but we will do our best here.
All right, so here's our male Nabo. Nabo's a 10-year-old bull giraffe, and he is a Maasai giraffe, just like Imara. So you can see that sort of jagged leaf pattern all down his body and quite a bit darker coloration as well. The males, of course, are quite a few feet taller than the females. So Nabo is now about 16 to 17 feet tall with his ossicones, which is a pretty good height for a male. Usually an average would be about 18 feet.
Wow.
Good feet for them. And then the females, of course, a few feet shorter than that.
He is just beautiful. So we have the Citadel Park grade 3s watching, and they are wondering what the giraffes are eating right now.
So right now, of course, in the wild, they would be eating a pretty big mixture of different types of plants and leaves. Here at the zoo, for their lunch today, we've got a couple of massive carragana trees. So thank you to our horticulture department for giving us some awesome carragana trees that the giraffes clearly are loving. They're actually going to this over their lunch pellet, which is fantastic. So we've got some carragana trees out there. We've got some beautiful willow. It is that time of year finally when the willow is starting to leaf out. So we're just starting. You can see Moshi pulling the leaves off of the willow there and chowing down on that. A couple of our other giraffes there, Carrie and Imara, are diving into some bottles that I've prepared for enrichment for them. So we do like to do a lot of enrichment for our animals, of course, to stimulate them both mentally and physically. So what they're getting out of those bottles is some of their herbivore pellets, which is basically a compressed grain pellet with some vitamins and minerals in it. And of course some vegetables and fruits and some lettuce as well in there, just as a treat for them.
Awesome. Just seeing here. So Citadel Park grade 3s, again, they are wondering, are these guys friendly, and do the giraffes have any different personalities between them?
You know, just like all of us and like all animals, they are very individual in their personalities. And the more you work with them, certainly the more you get to identify their different personalities, which change on every day as well, depending on their moods. They are friendly in the way that they are not aggressive towards us, but we also have a lot of respect for their potential. So giraffes actually can kick and break a lion's back, which is pretty impressive. They have very, very powerful hind legs. So we like to respect their potential. We don't approach them in that way. We don't try to touch them. Giraffes are not really an animal that like to be petted or touched. We do some training with them so that we are able to touch them if we need to for medical procedures with lots of positive reinforcement. But other than that, we don't pet them like you would a dog or a cat.
Right. Just trying to see if I can zoom in for you guys and get a little bit closer to these guys over here. So we have Brooklyn, who's 4 years old, and is wondering, how tall is the tallest giraffe that we have here at the Calgary Zoo?
Hi, Brooklyn. That is a great question. And our tallest giraffe here is our male over to the left, Nabo. And Nabo is about between 16 and 17 feet high now, I believe. We do have a growth chart on one of our walls in the back that we can measure him to. And if you measure up to his ossicones, he's definitely getting close to 17 feet tall. So most of it is leg and neck.
He is certainly tall. He is a sight to see.
Now, if you guys take a look at those long, long necks, one of the really cool things about giraffes is they actually have the same number of vertebrae in their neck as people do. They're just much, much larger.
That is true. And how can we tell the difference between the males and the females? Is there any good way for that?
Usually the biggest way is, of course, their size. So the males are usually going to be a lot taller, a lot heavier than the females are. And sometimes a little more bumpier on their head as well. You can see Nabo as he ages, he's getting a few more bumps on his head. Both the males and females do have those little bumps on top of their heads, their horns, or what's called their ossicones. So both males and females do have them. The males are usually rubbed a little more raw. Sometimes they're just skin at the top, generally from debating and fighting with other males, whereas the females are a little more tufted on the top.
Very cool. Let's see if we can get a good shot of Nabo here having some snacks.
So you might be able to see him stretching that tongue into the bottles. These guys are pretty incredible with their tongue. Of course, in the wild, they would be navigating that tongue around the acacia thorns. So here at the zoo, we do try to mimic some of those natural behaviors. So inside that bottle is a pipe with some pieces coming out of it. So sort of to mimic the thorns that he has to sort of maneuver his tongue around to try and get the treats out of. That tongue is actually 16 to 17 inches long, which is pretty incredible. And if any of you guys have ever seen a giraffe tongue, they're also a dark blue purplish color, which is pretty crazy as well. And it's thought to maybe be a type of sun protection, since of course they have their tongue out a lot of the day as they're feeding.
Brittany is wondering, what would be a top predator for giraffes out in the wild? Do they have any?
That is a great question, Brittany. Yes, unfortunately they do have some predators. They, of course, like a lot of animals today, one of their biggest predators is humans. They do, of course, suffer from poaching and hunting for their skins as well as for their meat. But some of their other predators in the animal world would be against lions, wild dogs, hyenas, things like that. More so for the calves. Unfortunately, a pretty high percentage of calves do not make it past their first 6 months, but moms are pretty protective, so it's just it's hard to go against some hyenas and lions for sure. So that would be some of their enemies out in Africa.
Emery, who's 6 years old and is watching, is wondering, were all of our giraffes born in a zoo?
That is a great question, Emery. So they were all born in a zoo, but not at this zoo.
Right.
So 3 out of 4 of our giraffes came to us from other zoos, and we are extremely lucky to have them. And then our 4th giraffe, Moshi, is the only giraffe that was born here in Calgary 4.5 years ago, October 22nd.
Moshi. Love Moshi.
She's a crowd favorite, I gotta say.
She sure is. She is awesome. Latterus, who's watching and is 9 years old, is wondering, how long do giraffes typically live? And out of our tower here, who's the oldest?
That is a great question as well. So in the wild, giraffes would typically live 20 to 25 years would be a good age, but of course it's It's a lot more challenging in the wild as you get older and start to slow down, but that'd be a pretty good age. In captivity, we tend to see giraffes live a little bit longer than that. Carrie is our oldest giraffe, and she's turning 27 at the end of May, which is a pretty good age for a giraffe. So she is in her golden years for sure, but she is still very healthy and going strong.
Awesome. We're going to have to say happy birthday to Carrie later this month. Paul is wondering if the giraffes ever interact with our hippos here.
There is sometimes some competition over browse that may fall on one side or the other. We do see them sometimes interact, at least to look at each other. A lot more so once these doors come open in the springtime, when we have our nice temperatures and the hippos are outside. You do sometimes see them stretching down and interacting a little bit with each other in that way.
Does anybody want to see what's right below me here? I'm going to pan down.
So these are our two fantastic river hippos. This is Sparky and Loby, and of course, what giraffe presentation would be complete without looking at the hippos, of course.
We had to get a little look in at those guys.
They were trying to participate earlier anyway, so.
I think they were. So the Citadel Park Grade 3s are wondering, how much of the day do our giraffes spend eating?
Oh, they do spend quite a large percentage of their day eating. So just like they would in the wild, they spend a lot of their time trying to find food as well as just chew and manipulate their food. So we do try to spread out their feeding a lot by making it a little more challenging for them to eat. So rather than just putting a flake of hay in a big container for them to easily pick it out of, they have to pick it out of, you can see some net bags hanging out there. So they have to pick it through the little squares of the mesh bags. Also our feeders as well have squares that they have to pick the hay through, just to take a little bit longer for them to eat, make it a little more challenging. They have to use both their tongues and their brains, which keeps them active and stimulated a little bit longer throughout the day.
Very cool. And I know a little bit at the beginning you were talking about the different patterns and the markings that they have. It might be a little hard to see here, but the Citadel Park Grade 3s are wondering if they do have some different color patterns and markings.
They do. Actually, one of the cool things about giraffes is their spot patterns are actually as unique as human fingerprints. So
Ooh, that's very cool.
Every giraffe has a very unique pattern. So that's how researchers in the wild also identify certain giraffes and study behavior patterns over time. So these guys all have very different patterns, and then of course you see different pattern characteristics among different species, subspecies. So the reticulated giraffes, reticulated is actually a term sort of that describes the pattern. So I don't know if you can see Nabo or Yumara. It is a little hard with the lighting because it's such a gorgeous day here in Calgary. But they're quite a bit darker in coloration, and their spots are quite a bit more jagged on the edges. As opposed to Moshi and Carrie, they have a little bit more solid lines that delineate their spots.
That is really cool. So Emma is watching. Emma is 5 years old, and she's wondering what giraffes like to do in the day besides eating.
Well, you have nailed their #1 favorite activity. This is definitely one of the top things that they enjoy doing, is eating. Anything from the fresh browse is certainly a favorite from them, as well as some of their favorite fruits and vegetables. Banana is a big deal for them. That's definitely one of their favorites. One of the other things that the giraffes like to do during the day is training sessions. So when we pull one of the giraffes into the back for training, we often have a lineup of giraffes outside the door waiting their turn to come in for training. So the majority of the training we do with these guys is what we call husbandry behaviors. So these are behaviors that allow the giraffes to participate in their own health care and allow us to take better care of the giraffes. So we can train them things that allow us to check their feet and work on their feet if we have to do any hoof work. Like I was saying earlier, if we have to do any tactile or if we have to touch them, we can train them so that they can accept that. In case somebody had a cut and we needed to apply some sort of medical treatment, things like that, so that we can take better care of them and they can voluntarily participate in that health care.
Yes, and we've seen earlier on a daily dose session, a hoof training session, a hoof trimming. And that was a really very cool, interesting thing to see Nabo voluntarily participating in his hoof trimming.
Exactly. So it makes all of our job a lot easier for sure, and it makes us a lot more able to tell if everything is going okay with these guys.
Awesome. And we have Abigail watching, who is 11 years old and is wondering, what are the giraffes' horns used for?
That is a pretty hotly debated thing. They're cartilage at the start, and then they actually fuse to the skull as the giraffes get older and they stand up. So one of the theories is that, one of the things we see them using them for is the males certainly use them when they are engaging in combat with each other. So males do what they call necking, and they will sort of throw their necks into each other and joust with their necks. And sometimes those ossicones can be used as little weapons as well on top.
Okay. Let's see if we journey over this way a little bit, if we can get a good look at the rest of the gang. Ashley and Deja, who's watching, Deja is 8 years old and is wondering how much our giraffes weigh.
So there's a pretty big, obviously, size difference between the males and the females. They can weigh anywhere between 1,800 pounds for the females up to 2,800 for the males. And of course, at birth, even these guys are, up to 100, 150 pounds for a newborn calf. Since sometimes Moshi was over 6 feet tall when she was born, so it's a pretty big delivery after 15 months of pregnancy.
Wow.
I'm gonna try and go down now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go this way. The Citadel Park grade 3s are wondering if giraffes see color or are they colorblind?
What we think right now is that they mostly see different shades.
Okay. Interesting. See if we can come around the corner here a little bit.
One really cool thing that a lot of people used to think is that giraffes didn't make any noises. So I don't know if any of you at home have ever been here at the zoo and sort of realized that you don't hear the giraffes making a lot of noise. They do actually have a pretty good repertoire of different sounds. So different types of grunts, bellows, things like that they can make noises. For the most part, they are fairly quiet, but current research is actually showing that they make a lot more communication, a lot more noises at just a lower frequency than we can hear. And actually some really cool research was done on captive giraffes to show that they hum at night.
Oh!
So you can go on the internet and Google that, and you can actually hear some little sound bites of the giraffes humming at night.
That is fun. I never knew that. I'm going to look that up. Let's see, Alex is 4 years old and is wondering, how fast can a giraffe run?
So giraffes actually, they look a little clumsy sometimes when they're walking, but they can be pretty quick. So they can run, if they're running at a full-out sprint, they can get up to 50, 60 kilometers.
Ooh, that's pretty fast.
Which is pretty fast, right? And they certainly, they take to a gallop pretty quickly from a standstill.
Very cool. And Veronica's wondering, how much do they sleep?
They don't sleep for too long a periods during the day. They sort of, I was going to say giraffe nap during the day. In the wild, it would be very unusual to see them laying down because, of course, you're very susceptible to predators in the wild. One nice thing we see with captive giraffes is we actually do see these guys lay down in our nice ABM out there, get the weight off of their feet for a little while, and obviously they feel safe and comfortable enough here to take a nap laying down. Otherwise, they do take naps throughout the entire day, but a lot of times they're just standing up napping.
Awesome. Get the gangs all here. And I think we might have touched on this just a little bit earlier, but Heather is wondering why giraffes have purple tongues.
So one of the theories for that is that they have their tongues exposed quite a lot during the day, especially out in sub-Saharan Africa. They've got their tongue out most of the day trying to go around thorns and pick little leaves off the trees. So if you can think about how much food it would take, basically how much salad it would take to support a big giraffe like this for an entire day, that's a lot of leaves. So they have their tongue out quite a lot searching for food and finding leaves. And one of the thoughts is that perhaps that tongue is a dark color to help protect them against sunburn.
Aha.
One of the other cool things with these guys is that because they have their tongues going around all those acacia thorns, it's actually believed that their saliva may have some antiseptic properties in case there's any scratches from those thorns.
Oh, that's really interesting too. And Debbie is watching and wondering, do giraffes ever lay down?
They do, actually. You may see them lay down sometimes at the zoo. Often Nabo takes a bit of a siesta in the afternoon and he will lay down. But we have seen all of our giraffes lay down, and like I was saying, that's a really great thing for us to see because it means that they feel very safe and secure. It's a pretty vulnerable position for a giraffe to be in, to lay down like that. So it's really great for us when they all lay down. But yeah, Nabo probably the most often, and his daughter Moshi.
see if we can get... Oh, the sun is just not cooperating with me today.
Now these guys actually do share the yard with a few of our other species here at the Calgary Zoo. So I don't know if we'll see any of them come into the building right now, but they do have access to a yard that has our 3 Hartman mountain zebra, as well as 3 ostrich and 2 African crown cranes.
Yes, and the hippos just took a little venture outside. So everybody is out enjoying the day.
I think the hippos are going out to sunbathe for a while.
I think so. Letting the giraffes have their afternoon lunch. Very cool.
This Caragana is a huge hit. I'm hoping that some of our horticulture staff can see this. We are very grateful for the browse.
Awesome. The giraffes are definitely loving this today. Look at that. Oh. Very cool. Do our giraffes here have siblings at other zoos? Evelyn, who's 6 years old, is wondering.
They don't have any full siblings. I'm not sure if Mara does because she came to us from San Diego. I'm not sure if her parents had any previous calves that are anywhere else. Carrie certainly has had lots of calves that are no longer at Calgary Zoo. So her genetics are being spread all over, which is fantastic.
That is wonderful. Very cool. And Jennifer, what's your favorite part about working with the giraffes, being a keeper here with the giraffe family?
You know, honestly, we have the best coworkers in the world to work with these animals, so we are extremely lucky to have the opportunity to work with such incredible animals. With respect to the giraffes in particular, it's the same as with any animal. They're so individual in their personalities. It's really cool to work with them and see their different tendencies and characteristics and different moods each day. Getting to work with them through training and doing different enrichment projects and things like that, it's definitely the best part of our day.
I love these guys. African savanna is definitely one of my favorite places at the zoo. Hippos, giraffes, red river hogs, meerkats, African crested porcupines. There's so many great things in this building. I love it. Awesome. And everybody can't wait to come and see all of their favorite animals at the zoo again, and we can't wait to welcome everyone back. All right, gang. I hope everybody enjoyed tuning in today as we checked in on our Tower of Giraffes. I want to thank Jennifer for taking some time out of the day to share some information about the giraffes with us, but she has to get back to her duties here in the Savannah building, and we're going to let the giraffes finish up their lunch, and hopefully they'll have some time out in the big yard this afternoon. Check back later today, everyone. Make sure you tune in for our daily dose. As you know, as our doors are closed here at the zoo, we are doing our best every day to bring the zoo to you. So make sure you tune in for the daily dose later on this evening. Check back tomorrow for our story time live. And if you are in a position to give, we are warmly accepting donations. You can check the link in our description box for that. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.